Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. This is Lori Smith on Blog Talk Radio. It is 6 o'clock here in the morning. It's Wednesday morning, June the 8th. I'm glad to be here. This is One Child Abuse Survivor to Another. We're on for 30 minutes. It's a live internet streaming radio broadcast from blogtalkradio.com, and I'm just having some coffee, waking up here, and be able to do these shows. I appreciate everybody who's tuning in. It's just awesome. I have a lot of people listening on the archives, some people tuning in live, and I really appreciate taking the time to do that. It's it's a lot of work keeping up with Blog Talk Radio shows. And, I appreciate everybody who has taken the time to listen. So I'm not a counselor or a therapist. I'm just a private citizen paying to do my shows. And I just want to be one more voice speaking out against abuse and standing up for survivors and standing up for child rights and everything else. So, that's why I started these shows. It's been over a year now. It's been about a year and a half. So I thank everybody for being a part of this with me. And so, I'm not a counselor or therapist. You just have to listen at your own discretion to all of my shows. I'm talking about abuse, and it's a very sensitive subject, and, a lot of people, if you haven't heard a whole lot about it, could make you uncomfortable. So that's why I always say this on every show, to be sure that, if you think the show material might bother you, the topics of abuse and whatnot, then you need to turn it off, right? It is your discretion. And young people under the age of 18, I just ask that you have permission to listen to my shows, and that's because I believe children should be protected at all times. And I'm the Canada Regional Director for Dreamcatchers for Abused Children, and we're standing up to fight to save children's lives, right? So if you're under the age of 18, you need to have an adult, like someone who cares, like hopefully you have someone in your family or someone who cares about what you're doing online, and have them listen to the show with you, and then they can help you decide whether you should be listening or not. So, that's very helpful. And if you don't know how to keep yourself safe online, there's lots of great websites out there. There's like FBI.gov has a bunch of information on there about how to keep yourself safe online. FBI.gov. And also, if you type into your browser online safety, internet safety for children, things like this, it will take you to websites that will give you some pointers and tips on how to keep yourself safe online. It's very important. And so to do that, you'd be doing yourself a favor and me a favor, and then keep yourself safe, right? So let's get right into this. We're still talking about Robert Burney's webpage called Joy to You and Me, and that's www.joy2meu.com and /codependency, and we're still looking at codependency. There's still a couple of pages of codependency topics that he's written here. Robert Burney is a codependency therapist. He's an author, spiritual teacher. He's written a book called Codependence: The Dance of Wounded Souls, which I will hopefully get a copy of one day. I'd like to get that book and read through it. He has a lot of excerpts from his book here on these web pages. And his web pages are also found at healing.about.com. So he's got his stuff a couple different places, and that I've seen and know about. And we've been on his stuff for over, almost 2 months now. But we're just going through it as we go through. He's got all kinds of stuff on there, not just on codependency, but relationship stuff and inner child work, grief and whatnot. He's also a grief counselor. And so he's written some really good stuff here. Some of it I relate to and some of it I don't, but that's the way it is with material like this, some of it we're going to relate to and some of it we won't, right? We're all different, and we've all been through different things as adult survivors of child abuse, right? So, some of it I don't relate to at all, and then other stuff I do. But I just find it very helpful to look at, and also sometimes I get some, just a little bit more information about why some of my behaviors and why I'm doing what I do, why my belief system is the way it is, and how I can change that, how I can turn it around for myself, you know what I mean? And that's the thing, it's a daily journey, right? So as I look through this stuff, I learned lots. And so we left off on this one page to www.joy2meu.com /codependency. I did pop that into the chat room if anybody would like to take a look at that. And it's he was saying, he was talking to all survivors, but he's also a survivor. And so he was saying we grew up having to deny the reality of parental alcoholism, addiction, mental illness, rage, violence, oppression, abandonment, betrayal, deprivation, neglect, incest, etc., of our parents fighting, or the underlying tension and anger because they weren't being honest enough to fight, or dad ignoring us because of his alcoholism, or mom smothering us because she had no other identity than being a mother, of the abuse that one parent heaped on another who wouldn't defend him or herself, and the abuse we received from one of our parents while the other wouldn't defend us, or of having only one parent or having two parents who stayed together and shouldn't have, etc., etc. So he's sort of just talking for all survivors here and saying, that we had to grow up we had to deny the emotional reality of all of this. And I was talking about that the other day. Yesterday I missed my show because I couldn't get into my switchboard because my Skype connection had gone down, so I couldn't do the show. But the day before we were talking about this section here, and I was just saying that when you're growing up like that, especially if you spend years and years in it, you basically just learn how to function in that. You know what I mean? It's like not really, obviously not getting any help, but not being able to acknowledge it and to be able to feel the feelings that we need to feel. Quite often, abused children obviously are not allowed to say what they feel. They're not allowed to say, "Look, this hurts me," or "You're hurting me," or what to the parents or caregivers, whoever they are, what you're doing is hurting the family or me or whatever. And so many times we just have to stuff that emotions, and we don't get to express them. And then later on in life, that's where we find the real issues are we realize just how serious how damaging that really is. He says we grew up with messages like children should be seen and not heard. Big boys don't cry, little ladies don't get angry. It's not okay to be angry at someone you love, especially your parents. These are messages, dysfunctional kind of, messages that many people hear growing up, and God loves you but will send you to burn in forever if you touch your shameful private parts, he writes here. He says, don't make noise or run in or any way be a normal child. Do not make mistakes or do anything wrong, etc., etc. He says, we were born into the middle of a war where our sense of self was battered and fractured and broken into pieces. We grew up in the middle of battlefields where our beings were discounted, our perceptions invalidated, our feelings nullified. So we were sort of just talking about all this. This is codependence as delayed stress syndrome, which he talks about being a vicious form of post-traumatic stress disorder. And so it's kind of like sort of the same thing of like war victims, soldiers, who have to go into war and see friends killed and maimed. He says here what it feels like to kill another human being. Soldiers, right, have come back from wars, and they have generally, many of them have many issues because of the trauma. And child abuse is very much likened to that because it's sort of the same type of thing, but it just goes on for years and years if there's no help for the child, and if the child isn't removed from the home or removed from that, or it doesn't stop and it just keeps going. You just learn how to obviously you have to survive, so you learn ways of coping, and there may not be the best ways, and you learn a lot of these beliefs and belief patterns, that may not be all that healthy. And I think that's, it's not even our fault, obviously, right? So he says the war we were born into, the battlefield each of us grew up in, was not in some foreign country against some identified enemy. It was in the homes which were supposed to be our safe haven with our parents whom we loved and trusted to take care of us. It was not for a year or two or three, it was for 16 or 17 or 18 years. And this is just exactly it, he's talking about if it's the parents who were dysfunctional and abusive, it's not necessarily that, some people didn't have a parent who abused them, it was somebody else, whether a stranger or neighbor or some other, not so close relative or something, you know what I mean? But he's talking here about mainly about the whole issue of parents being, supposed to be the ones that are supposed to take care of the children and nurture them and protect them and keep them safe. But it was when obviously quite a lot of abuse happens within homes, and the parents who are inflicting that abuse, and it's very, very damaging because these are the people that you're supposed to be able to trust, to be very people that give you life, bring you into the world. It's supposed to you're relying on them for everything. And, when it goes on for 16, 17, 18 years, and you don't get that nurturing, that love, that care, that protection, it's very devastating and damaging. He says we experience what is called sanctuary trauma. Our safest place to be was not safe, and we experienced it on a daily basis for years and years. And some of the greatest damage was done to us in subtle ways on a daily basis because our sanctuary was a battlefield. And that's very interesting what he says there, because that's just the whole issue. I think about it quite a bit because of what I'm doing and working through my healing journey and, going through and really thinking about this stuff, and have been for my whole life, really. But, we weren't beaten on a daily basis. We weren't physically assaulted every day, you know what I mean? It was the idea that the threat was there and that we were not allowed to be ourselves. We couldn't just be ourselves, we couldn't just relax and just be children in the home, like none of us were allowed to do that. And we weren't allowed to just, enjoy life. right? I mean, I was thinking about that actually this morning a little bit. That you know, my probably one of the biggest issues and the most damage done was that my mother was always bursting my bubble. I mean, every time I was excited about something, or even as a young child, or happy about something, she would burst my bubble. You know, like I was saying the other day, I would bring her flowers and stuff, and especially for Mother's Day, you know, I'd be at school. The kids would say, "What are you gonna, you know, we need to make a card for your mother, and what are you gonna get for your mother for Mother's Day?" Like I'd make her a little card and everything, and I didn't have any money, obviously. And kids that age don't have money, and my dad wasn't buying her any, not getting my mother right at all ever. And so I thought, well, I'll get her some flowers. So I went around to the neighbors and I got flowers for her. And you know, she would. I knew she'd be. You know, what I was hoping was that she'd be happy with the flowers. But you know, in the back of my mind, I thought, well, she might be mad because I took the neighbor's flowers. But I really didn't care, and I gave them to her anyway. And of course, she was not accepting of that gift. You know, I mean, she was mad because I stole the neighbor's flowers, and yelling at me, and you know, basically saying this gift is unacceptable, and it's really all I knew how to do. And I was trying to be nice and good to her because she wasn't getting any of that from her own husband, my dad. You know what I mean? So that's just one example. I mean, this is just a small example of of what parents can do to children when they're not thinking clearly about the choices and decisions they make when they're talking to their children or reacting to their children. You know, sometimes children don't always do the right thing, but they sometimes it's what's going on inside their heart and the motivation behind it. You know, it's like parents quite often will burst a child's bubble all the time, in reaction to it not being the right thing, not being good enough, right? So I mean, I always trying to be, trying to vie for my mother's love and attention, to get some love and care from her, and so it always turned out to be harmful. Our whole relationship, the time I was growing up, was harmful. Like one time I scrubbed the floor, and me and my nephews actually scrubbed the kitchen floor. This is just some little examples, but this is just sort of an idea of like what parents can do. It doesn't have to be a beating every day to cause you to feel so down and so out. You know what I mean? We scrubbed the kitchen floor. We waxed it too much, and it was slippery. So we thought we did a great thing, and we were so happy with the job that we did. My mother came in. She had probably been out somewhere, who knows, a doctor's appointment or something, or grocery shopping or something, who knows. But she came in and was slid across the kitchen floor. And of course, it was dangerous, right? It was pretty slick, right? But instead of saying, "Oh, you guys, you did a great job, thank you," I was about 11 years old at this point, 10 or 11, and she could have said, "It's a little bit slippery and a little bit dangerous. I think you guys put a little bit too much wax on there or something. But thank you for the thinking of me and trying to help me out, and doing a nice job cleaning the floor and everything." Instead of that, I got a beating. Right? She was pissed off and she was mad and angry and cursing me and actually beat the shit out of me in the kitchen. And this is the thing, right? I mean, I thought I was doing a good thing, and this is just the relationship I had with my mother. It was pretty deadly, and it was pretty sad because there was nothing I could do that was right. Nothing I ever did was good, and nothing, I wasn't good. Like me just being in the house was enough to cause her to beat me, or just to threaten to hurt me, and so it was a horrible existence with her. And that whole trauma, our safest place to be was not safe. And I mean, obviously anybody who listens to my shows knows about, what I talk about on my shows and the stuff that I've talked about in the past. And like, sleep. I used to sleep with a knife when I was a little kid. Like our home was not safe. And in the meantime, I was trying to do these normal things and trying to be as much a normal child as I could be. And you do what you do what you can. You know what I mean? Little children will try to find ways to cope and to make it. And they'll try to be as normal as possible many times. But there's just no hope. You know what I mean? And if it just goes on and on and on, you start to realize the destruction that's being done. And by the time I was like 12, 14, I realized just how serious that the effects that were happening to me were taking control of my mind, taking control of my emotions, taking control of my body. I mean, I was just becoming kind of a enraged person, and by the time I was 12 or 13, I really didn't care if I lived or died. And I mean, I had been telling my mother to care for about 3 years prior to that. And so, a child spending 3 years in thinking like that, I mean, that's not healthy at all. And with really no one really caring, no real help. So many times, our homes are not these safe places, these sanctuaries, And it's hard for people to understand that who haven't been abused. I don't think it'd be easy for them to understand what it'd be like to grow up in a home like that. Because they don't know what it'd be like. It'd be like me trying to understand what it'd be like to grow up in a safe home. I really have no idea, what that would be like to be a child growing up in a loving, caring, nurturing home, right? I mean, I saw some friends who were being treated very well by their parents, but as far as understanding the experience and saying, oh yes, I've experienced that, no, I haven't experienced that. And so it's a little bit hard for me to understand. It's almost that's a world of magic to me, thinking about kids who grow up in these homes that are good homes, decent homes where there's lots of love and care. And, I read books. I do a lot of reading, and I don't just I read about good stuff too, not just abuse. And I mean, I see stuff on TV, and you see these what would be normal reactions and normal happenings within normal homes, and you think, wow, that must be nice. That must have been so nice for those kids, and that's awesome. It always makes me happy, but not all of us have been there. You know what I mean? Many of us have had the very place that was supposed to be safe and loving and caring and nurturing was not. And so many of us have experienced this. I know this. There's so many people that they weren't abused as children, but if they actually took a look at the behaviors that were going on in the home, and think about the dysfunction and just the traumatic stuff that would be happening, a lot of people don't think that's abuse because they don't really realize that is an abusive environment. You know what I mean? It's not a nurturing, caring environment. It's abusive. So, I mean, this is just like being in a war. You bet it is. And so he says here, it was not a battlefield because our parents were wrong or bad. It was a battlefield because they were at war within, because they were born into the middle of a war. By doing our healing, we're becoming the emotionally honest role models that our parents never had the chance to be. That's an interesting thought there. Through being in recovery, we were helping to break the cycles of self-destructive behavior that have dictated human existence for thousands of years. And I mean, he's really quite, deep here, because he's talking about not only, the dysfunctional, self-destructive behavior of certain individuals and people, but as a society, as a broken, destructive society. And you bet it is. And all you have to look around for 2 seconds and you can see it. A lot of people live with blinders, so they don't have to see it. And who can blame them, right? I mean, I was forced to see this stuff as a child, so I understand the world's a dangerous place, an ugly place, but it can also be a good place. I can see that, right? And whereas many people couldn't. My 2 brothers couldn't see that it was not a good place. That it could be a good place. I mean, all they saw was bad. And they lived their whole lives like that. I mean, they had no, like one brothers, I talk about this all the time. He killed himself when he was 33. He never did ever get any help. And he was offered help many, many times. And it's not like he didn't have people in his life who were trying to help him. And, he couldn't see the good. He couldn't see it at all. It was just not there to him. And same with my other brother, who died at the age of 37 in a shelter and from a drug overdose. But the thing is, they couldn't see any good stuff, and I knew that when I was talking to them. I used to talk to them periodically, and I knew that they were headed for an early death, because one of my brothers was trying to kill himself many times, and he finally made it at the age of 33, and the other one was just overdosing on drugs all the time, and we knew those would eventually take him. So, I'm able to see the good in life, and I think that's a real gift. It's a real blessing, because, I'm not just looking at the bad stuff. I also see the good stuff, you know what I mean? And that's important, right? Because that's about the only way we can really allow ourselves to say, hey, it's worth it. It's so worth it to keep going and keep moving through this healing journey, because there is good stuff and there's good people out there. I've met some really awesome people, and I know there's good people, and I've always known there's been good people, you know what I mean, in the world. In this, even though it seems pretty crazy and pretty dangerous, there's always been good people, and it makes it worth it to me. But he says by doing our healing, we're being the emotionally honest role models that our parents never had a chance to be. And I mean, that's just it. Like my mom was abused as a child, so was my dad, and who knows really what my dad's problem was except for mental illness. But his parents were very, as far as I know, they were very strange people. Nobody talks a whole lot about them, but all the kids, the siblings, all shared a bed, and there was 9 siblings, and so all the boys and the girls, all the way through their teen years, all shared a bed, and I think there was some incest going on. And this is what I gather from various information that I get about my dad's family, and that his dad was mentally ill and took off and left the family, but supposedly had a tuberculosis, but actually didn't, and he just wanted to get away from all the family. He moved to a shack in the woods and took the piano and told them all that they were ruining his life, and that he wanted to be a pianist and all this. This is my dad's dad, right? And I didn't know these people because they were long dead before I was born. But the thing is, they were born in the 1800s, and my dad's parents were both cousins, first cousins. So there was a lot of brain issues with the kids, and they all had tumors, all kinds of brain problems. And my dad, of course, mentally ill, was schizophrenic and everything else. And my mother was abused as a child for sure, physically and every other way. My grandmother was a horrible woman, and her father was a coward, I guess you would say. He didn't stick up for the kids. He didn't try to save the children. He just let my grandmother just kill one of his sons. He just stayed out of the way because he was afraid of his wife, I think. My grandmother, if she could kill her 18-year-old son or 17-year-old son, she could kill anybody. She was a vicious woman, and she was a horrible woman, and I'm glad I didn't get to know her. I'm glad I just met her a couple times, and I'm kind of sad that I actually had to meet her. I don't really keep any love in my heart for her at all. God knows this. That's all right. I'll have to make restitution once I see him. I just don't condone what she did to my mother or her children. Abusing them so horrifically, and a bunch of orphans too. Like, she was a horrible woman. So my mother just took on these roles, didn't do any kind of, soul searching to heal. She was such a miserable woman. She would cry at night, I should just kill myself. I should have just killed you. And I'd be like, well, thanks a lot. You know what I mean? I'd be like, you're telling us that we're not worth anything. You just got to kill yourself but we don't matter, you know what I mean? I mean, when I got older, I started talking to her like that because I realized what's she going to do, you know what I mean? Like, especially when I got to be around, 18, 20 years old, I was just like, you can't kill me now because I can leave, you know what I mean? She was just so down, but she was manic depressive and probably needed to be on, some type of prescriptions, to help keep her level, but she wasn't, and, she knew she was manic depressive. They were diagnosed. My parents were both diagnosed when they got busted on child abuse charges, and so, they didn't get the help that they needed, right? They didn't go in to try to heal their issues and save whatever they could of their marriage or of the family's relationship, they just continued on to their garbage, right? And it's like, so we just continued on. Nobody got any help, and we all just floundered along. And until about 4 years ago, when I decided that I was going to do it, I didn't care what my sister was doing, my brother was doing, or my dad, right? They're the only ones left in the family. And I was just like, I don't care what they're doing. I really don't care. What I care about now is me. And I had to do that because what I was doing was always thinking about the family and, and I thought, no more of that. You know what I mean? That's the role I played as a child, was always put, my mother's needs first and somebody else's needs first. And I thought, no, not anymore. Now it's all about my needs and what I need so I can be a healthy, functioning adult on the planet. And I've decided to not let anything get in my way. And it means anything, anybody, because I count, I do matter. If I'm not that important to somebody, like my sister, my brother, my dad, or whatever, that they can't see that I'm on my healing journey, I'm making progress, I'm having a good life, I'm doing what I want to do, I'm feeling great, I'm no longer thinking about killing myself. If they can't see that that's an improvement and support me in it, they have no business in my life. If they're just going to try to tear me down, which that's what my family does, is they try to tear each other down, right? So we can't even be in the same room together because even now, we're all, aging people, older, we still can't be in the same room together because we will tear each other down. Right? It's ingrained in us. That's what we did our whole entire lives growing up. And so we have no other way to behave with each other. We don't even know how to behave like a normal family because we never had any of that, right? So this is the issue. There is no real family for me. But my real family is people in my life that I allow in my life who are my real family. You know what I mean? Those other people are my flesh and blood, but that doesn't have much to do with it. They are continually, and still try to hurt me on a regular basis. And they're still doing it because they're playing the passive aggressive role. They're not saying anything bad to me, but they're not saying anything good to me. So they're just playing this passive aggressive garbage role, which I know all about. And so I just refuse to get involved with that. I'm not doing it. They can just buzz off and, do their own thing. They're not going to ever be on their healing journey. My sister thinks it's just fine that my dad raped my mother. It's just great that my mom beat the shit out of me and tried to kill me on numerous occasions. And she just thinks it's just fine that my dad did what he did to my brothers, right? And also that it's just fine that a sibling sexually molested me and sexually used me, at the age of 8 years old. She just thinks that's fine. That's great. To her, that's just like, no problem, roll with the punches, right? And I'm like, no. There's just something all wrong with all of that stuff. Like there's something, to me, like I can't sit here and condone that stuff. I can't sit here and say, oh, well, Dad was just sick and my brother was just sick. My mom was just sick, right? They were all just, it's okay what they did to me. That's no problem. I'm not going to sit here and say that. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to sit here, even to myself, and say that. That was not okay. It's completely wrong. And so that's why my siblings hate what I'm doing. They absolutely hate it because it makes them face the fact that what happened in our family was so incredibly wrong. And they don't want to have to deal with it because it's too far back for them. You know what I mean? Especially my brother who's like, 60-something years old. He's just like, I don't want to know about it. I don't care. Whatever. He's so burned out and used up. You know, he's never ever gotten any help with his issues. And you know, has a horrible belief system. You know, he hurt his own son, you know what I mean? Hurt his own wife. And you know, he's a product of my parents, just like I am. Right? Those people, you know, if they want to continue to be on, you know, the same old dysfunctional garbage roles that they're playing, that's fine, but I'm not doing that anymore, right? So I had to put my foot down, and I was like, no, I refuse to play that role anymore. And, you know, I can't be hanging around with them because they will not get help themselves. You know what I mean? So they're still just as dysfunctional as day one, right? So that's why I'm like, no, can't do it. But this is the kind of stuff that this stuff does. And, you know, if you don't get any help, so you know, by us doing healing, our own healing journeys, and allowing ourselves to get help, whatever way that is, you know, like whether it's a counselor, therapist, group support, online group support, self-help, whatever, you know, by allowing ourselves to heal and to get help, we're doing exactly what our caregivers and parents did not do. You know, and that's to allow ourselves, you know, to have a good life, to be at peace in this world, to have a good set of belief systems and be able to get along in this world and have a great life. You know what I mean? And I think that that's so important for people because this is, you know, we don't deserve to continue on. I thought I had to live and die in that misery. You know, when I was growing up, I thought that was my only option, was I was going to have a violent death. I had a violent life. I had a violent beginning. I thought for sure I would die a violent death on the street somewhere or, you know, in my home. And I just thought that was the way it was going to be for me. And I was pretty sure I wasn't going to live past 30 years old. You know, I had many people tell me, you won't live to see 30. And that was when I was like 20. But that's because my lifestyle was so bad for so long. And my attitudes and my beliefs were so screwed up. And, you know, many people said, you know, you won't make it. You're not going to make it. And it's not like they were being mean. They were being honest. And, I mean, for many, many years, when I hit 30, I was like, yes, I made it. But the thing is for many years, I didn't believe it myself because when I was in my 20s, I was thinking about driving my car over the Grand Canyon. So, I mean, I was having a real hard time because I had my car and I was at the Grand Canyon for a year and I was sitting there going, I could just drive it right over the edge. I could end all this right now. That was my mentality. And that was my mentality right up into the age of 41 years old. When I realized at the age of 41, I said, what am I doing? You know, oh my God, I'm going to let my parents win this fight? No way. No way. I'm going to have a good life and everybody else in my family can go away. And I really don't care what they do. They have hurt me and they don't care that they hurt me. They hurt our whole family. They don't care, right? My mother's in the grave 16 years and she wouldn't care today if she was sitting here. She'd probably throw something at me and tell me to, you know, go to hell or whatever. She was a miserable woman. And, you know, I don't care. I don't care about those people, to be honest with you. I really don't, because they hurt me and they don't care if they hurt me and they care that they don't care, period. They don't, you know, they don't care that my brothers killed themselves. It makes no difference to them. So, you know, what kind of people is that? I don't want them in my life, and I'm really happy actually to not have them in my life. But, you know, I have good people in my life now who do care, right? You know, and that's the thing. You have to find people who you can trust, you know, and if you're going to let somebody into your life, that somebody's going to treat you right with dignity and respect and with, you know, who are going to be there for you, right? So we have about a minute left, so we'll continue on with this tomorrow morning. So thanks, everybody. Appreciate you all being here this morning, and we'll just finish up here tomorrow. Have a great day, everybody. And on Thursday night, I have Lori Fanilla joining me, and it's going to be a great show. She's the new voice for abused women, and she's got some great information for us, and she's just a nice lady, and I hope that you will tune in. That's Thursday night, 7 o'clock p.m. Mountain Standard Time. And we're going to be on for an hour. So Lori Fanilla, F-I-N-N-I-L-A. So be sure and check out my show page there and get her information to her website. She's got some great info, and she's the creator and owner of Women Empowerment and Empowering Women and all kinds of stuff. Like, she's just really busy. So be sure and check out her stuff. And she's really a great motivational someone, you know, she's a motivator. She gets people motivated, right, to do something for themselves. You know, women who have been suffering for so long in so many different ways, from abuse and whatnot, right? I mean, she's just a really awesome lady, and I hope that you will tune in to Liz. She's a survivor of everything. She's still here, and so be sure and check out the show. I hope that you can join us live, and that's Thursday, June 9th, right? And I have another guest coming on pretty soon as well, and I'll be a guest hopefully coming up here on another show. So be sure and stay tuned. I'll let everybody know about that. So okay, everybody, take care. If you can't cope, you call it. Fine. I don't care what you got to do, but you make sure you stick around, and you do not allow yourself to let your past destroy you. You just don't do that. So I'm telling you right now, if you're having a hard time coping and you have nobody to talk to, then you phone a crisis line and you make sure that you get some help. And we will talk to you soon. Have a great day, everybody.